Hi everyone. Today we have Lorraine Millington as our guest today on the show. And Lorraine Millington is a tax strategist that is combining tax planning and strategic financial strategies for real estate investors and entrepreneurs. She's an enrolled agent and a certified tax advisor, specializing in navigating complex tax strategies to help real estate investors and entrepreneurs. She's dedicated to helping her clients achieve long-term financial growth and thrive in their business and investment ventures. Her personalized approach creates lasting partnerships and helps clients toward their financial goals. So please help me welcome Lorraine to the show.
Hi, well, thank you so much for that awesome intro. I feel like I do a lot, or it sounds like I do a lot of different things. Yeah. Awesome to be here.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you for coming. We definitely gave like a quick rundown of what you are in the bio, but I'm definitely going to dive deeper into how you kind of got into this industry, because I think a lot of people hear about taxes and they get scared like me, like I don't want anything to do with taxes or know about it. So can you just kind of like tell us like why you started this journey, why you got into this industry?
Sure. And one thing, I really want to make taxes fun. So how I got into it, taxes kind of fell into my lap because I didn't really understand a lot behind the tax code, but I knew that I liked money and I knew I needed to understand how money works and how to make and keep more of it. And so that's kind of how I started to get into taxes, like understanding like this is where most of our money is going. I mean, there's two things certain in life, right? They say death and taxes. And so I want to specialize in the taxes part, not the other. When I started to learn and understand, like, okay, like there are credits, there are deductions, there are things that we can take advantage of that a lot of people aren't talking about. That's when I really started to kind of nerd out, if you will, and get really into the weeds as it relates to taxes. So it's really fun stuff. It can be.
I can imagine, especially if you're kind of looking at the good side of it and not just the negative side of taxes.
Right.
How can we make this better? How can we make it work for us?
Absolutely.
So it's good that you're focusing on that.
Yeah.
So we noticed in their introduction, I introduced you as an EA instead of a CPA. And I think a lot of people just think about CPA naturally. So can you kind of just tell us the difference between an EA and a CPA?
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much for that question. So in terms of tax, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the different professions and things that happen within the tax world. And so a CPA, which is a certified public accountant, is specialized in accounting, generally speaking. It's not to say that CPAs, and this is nothing against the CPAs that are out there, please, I'm not trying to put down any CPAs, but I just want to enlighten people to the fact that just because someone is a CPA doesn't automatically mean that they specialize in taxes. I mean, a majority of the test is auditing and financial statements and things like that, but it's not necessarily all the time specialized in taxes, as opposed to an EA, which is an enrolled agent, which the whole test to become certified or authorized as an EA is taxes. Like you do a 4-part exam specifically related to taxes. And so if you want someone that's specifically dedicated to taxes, tax preparation, tax advice, all of that stuff, that's usually an EA. Now you do have sometimes CPAs who specialize in taxes, but that's not always the case. So I just wanted to enlighten people on the difference between the two.
Got it. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know the differences. I didn't know the difference as well until you mentioned to me that there is a big difference between an EA and a CPA.
Yeah.
So with that, what kind of industries or professionals would you recommend to go to an EA rather than a CPA?
A lot of times it takes interviewing the person that you're going to work with. Like I like to say, like, especially if you're in business or you have real estate investments or something like that, you want to have your money team, right? And so you want to make sure that the people on your team are specialized in what it is that you're doing. And so again, you can have a CPA that specializes in tax and you can have an EA that specializes in tax as well, but maybe they're not specialized in real estate, or maybe they're not specialized in certain business ventures, or it doesn't necessarily have to be this specific industry, but making sure that they have an understanding of business and different credits and deductions that you can take advantage of. So it's really making sure the person that you're working with knows what you're doing and can benefit and emphasize what you're doing. So that's what I would say. And also, just going back to like the CPA versus the EA, a lot of times CPAs are only licensed in one particular state or in multiple states, as opposed to an EA that they can generally do taxes or represent people in front of the IRS from all over the country. So that's also sometimes a little bit of a difference between the two.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, that is another whole other thing.
Yeah,
representing someone in front of the IRS.
Yeah, we're not going to get into we're not going to get into that. But yes, wow. I mean that's one of the benefits. I mean, if you have, and not all the time, and we're not going to get into the specifics about audits and all of that stuff. But a lot of times when someone gets audited, these are the people that you want on your team. Either an EA, again, who can represent you in front of the IRS. A CPA can do the same, but you want to make sure that you're having someone that's not just preparing taxes, but it's also giving you strategy and advice relating to your financial situation. So,
and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I do want to talk about strategy, because I think a lot of people, they just they have a CPA and they just prepare their taxes right for the year. Everything happens maybe March 1st, and before the time happens.
For sure. Oh gosh,
so
yes.
I do want you to touch on more about tax strategy and planning throughout the year, opposed to trying to race against the clock when it happens.
Yeah, no, thank you. So that's really a great point. And so what I try to emphasize for clients is that we want to be more proactive versus reactive when it comes to taxes, right? And so if you have someone that's just doing taxes, generally speaking, that's more of a reactive approach, right? You're giving them your paperwork. They're saying, okay, well, this is what I did last year, so can you just create some magic on the tax return? Like make this work. Like, help me out here. And it's just like, okay, sure, but this is, I can't necessarily change what's happened previously, right? As opposed to having like a strategist or an advisor on your team where it's like, through the year, you're working together to say, okay, well, this is about to come up, or this happened maybe like a month ago or so. What can I do for the rest of the year to be able to hedge against this, or make this a better situation moving forward? So there's no surprises when it comes to January through April, which is tax filing season, right? There's not much that can be done during that time. So we want to plan during the year. So and that's part of the difference between having a preparer versus an advisor or a strategist.
And that's a good point. And while you're talking about that too, I'm just thinking about, at least from my industry with real estate, right? A lot of people were kind of just making money throughout the year, and then January comes like, oh, we have to pay all these taxes.
Like, I didn't know I made this much. Like, what am I going to do now? Like, please find me some credits or do something so that I can. It's just like, okay. Yes, but please, let's have a conversation like after you sell the house. Like, let's see what we can do. Let's see what credits maybe you didn't necessarily take advantage of or whatever. So that's a great example of just like, oh no, okay, now I have to find something to help this person. It's like, okay,
but it seems like January might be too late, right? Opposed to if you were working with each other throughout the year, and then you could say, okay, in November, hey, maybe you need to put your money in this to alleviate that before it gets to that point.
Now, I will say, and this is not to encourage anyone to like wait till the last minute. I mean, but there are sometimes some strategies that you can do. Like we're in January now, right? So if you're kind of watching this and thinking like, oh, I might fall into that category of like I waited to the last minute. It's not to say that all hope is lost, but now having this knowledge of saying, oh, okay, like maybe I can be a little bit more strategic or a little bit more proactive during the year. Then we can start working on things either to help mitigate or lessen what happened last year, but then also plan for the rest of this year, right? Because as real estate investors, as business owners, it's only going up, right? Like you're only looking to do more, make more, sell more. And so this is the right time to start getting those people in place, right? And starting to get strategies in place.
That is a good point, because maybe it's a little too late for 2024.
Maybe there might be a little Hail Mary we can throw in there, but also, like it's still early enough in this year as you're planning to continue to grow your business. Like let's start putting things into place from now.
Exactly. Let's start now for the whole year.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we're working on, just trying to figure out for the whole entire year, how can we work on things month by month basis, opposed to just waiting until the next tax season to figure out what you want to do. And
I also want to say, like, I don't want it to make it seem like a burden for all business owners. Like, oh my gosh, now I have to think about taxes all year round. Like, I only want to think about it for maybe like a week. And so that's why you hire someone, right? Like that's why you bring an advisor on your team to let them work with you. So you're not doing this all by yourself. You don't feel like it's a burden. Like, okay, this is another thing on my plate in addition to trying to grow my business or get more investments or whatever it is. So just know you don't have to do it alone, and it doesn't have to feel like another job. That's why you hire someone, you bring someone on your team to help you out with this. So
that makes 100% sense. And I think we kind of a lot feel like, oh, we have to do all this stuff ourselves instead of just kind of like outsourcing. You know, I can have someone help me with this and help me just keep track of things throughout the year, so that way it doesn't just fall on my plate and then now I'm handing you a book of
like,
papers.
okay, please help me, please. Yes,
exactly.
And this is part of being the CEO of your business, right? Like even if you're a real estate investor, most real estate investors that I know run their investments like a business, right? And so one of the things that CEOs do is they hire. Like that's the big thing. They hire and they delegate, right? And so this is one of the things. These are one of the expenses you don't skimp on, right? Like I've always heard in business, like marketing and your accounting are generally like your biggest expenses in business. And so she said, yes.
Working on that.
So you want to make sure that as a CEO of your business, we don't know we don't know a lot of times, right? And so when you're starting a business, they don't tell you all of these things about like, you know, you should have this and that and, you know, all of these different moving parts that come together. And so we learn this as we go. This is part of the reason why like I like to have conversations like this. So like help people know like, oh, I didn't really know that was that big or that important or that's something that I should have, right? So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. You don't know what you don't know, so that's why it's good to have people like you around. So that way we can ask. And just to like touch on real estate a little bit more, just since that's my background. Working with investors a lot. Do you find that a lot of us may not know a lot of the regulations or a lot of the things that we can take advantage of? Or?
I wouldn't say that because there are a lot of very savvy, like you said, there are very savvy investors out there. What I do find though is that sometimes the structuring of like how people are keeping their investments, right? Like, just as an example, like I have real estate investors that maybe sometimes have property in their own name, right? Or maybe they have it in an LLC where maybe it could be structured a little bit differently. So that's kind of combining the information that most real estate investors or business owners have with a little bit of the tax strategy or the tax advantage opportunities that they have. So I would say it's more of that, like, oh, I didn't know if I didn't have this, like this, if I had this maybe in a partnership as opposed to my own name, that it would create more tax benefits for myself. Sometimes there's some misconceptions about different things that can happen with real estate, like capital gains, for example, like how to be able to avoid that or how to be able to better leverage what those are in certain situations. So I think those are certain things that I work with clients, with especially my real estate investors, that I work with them on in terms of, okay, let's kind of shift some of the things that you're doing. What you have, like the foundation of it is pretty good, but now let's better optimize this to work better for your situation. So I find that most often.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it's like, it seems like a lot of us are on the right track, but we just need a little bit of
guidance.
Because like I said, that's not our profession. We're not professionals in tax. So we have to work with people like you that's professional.
in making the money. Like I'm professional in making the money. So please help me better keep some of this money and how to better like organize it. So
exactly,
for sure.
Exactly. And I do want to emphasize on that because I feel like a lot of us want to wear these hats, right? We're doing real estate, but then we're doing marketing and then we're an accountant and then we're a cleaner. We're doing so many things, but I think this is a very serious topic that really shouldn't be a DIY kind of thing. It really should be handled with care.
That is such a good way to put it. Like there are certain things you want to DIY. If you're a rehabber and you want to kind of knock down the walls and do all that, sure, go at it.
Go ahead.
But then on the back end, like let's outsource the paperwork or let's outsource the structuring of the finances related to that to someone else who maybe has a more of a passion for it or actually wants to do those things. So I love how you put that. Let's not DIY all the things. I love that. That's so good.
But and speaking of passion, since you mentioned that, I'm also on this journey with helping people just tap into their real passion and helping people in the real estate world know and understand like if this is what they truly want to do. If they're passionate about this, what drives them, not because it just sounds cool. So we have like a world where we're kind of tapping into that more. But I love that you're doing this in your industry, and taxes really don't sound cool to the average person.
Not yet.
Yeah, but it's getting there, right? And it's getting there. The more people are talking about, like you were exposing that, and people like you that are passionate about it. Can you just like kind of elaborate more about just like what drives you to kind of learn more about this industry?
Yeah, I think I do like numbers, but I really, I like puzzles, but like I really enjoy just like different scenarios. Like I understand how money works for the most part, and it's always good. Like I like getting more for what I'm doing. Like it's kind of like, I'll use the example of like credit cards versus using cash, right? Like I generally like using credit cards because you get points, you get cash back, like you get all these different things. Like I like leverage. And so taxes are a really great way to like leverage your situation, leverage money. Like I like situations where I can get more for doing less, or maybe doing the same of what I'm already doing. And so helping people understand that and just kind of, I don't want to phrase it like gaming the system, but the system is there to benefit you. And a lot of people don't realize what's there until they're enlightened to it. And so it's just, it's kind of like a puzzle. And no situation is the same, right? Like everyone has a different situation. Even though the tax code is what it is, there's so many different ways to benefit it for so many different people. And so, and I want to help businesses because as you mentioned, like, you're focused on doing your business. You're focused on getting the next rental or the next flip or whatever it is. You don't necessarily want to focus on the back end. But if you don't have the back end in place, you're not going to really be able to grow or scale and do what it is what you need to do. So I like being able to be that glue, if you will, to help people with that.
Exactly. It's like you said, it's hard to focus on all these things, right? But if you kind of like, if you have somebody in your corner to help put that together so that way your life is not crumbling on top of you, right? Because it can feel like a burden. It can just feel like, just like a, a dark cloud
or like
over
a
you,
weight on your shoulders.
Exactly. So, it definitely feels like that. But I know since I feel like the industry is thriving and a lot of more people are getting into it. So, are you working with a lot of different other EAs that are kind of tapping into this new market? And
so I have a network of like advisors, if you will, that I work with, and like people specialize in different areas. And it's important to have a network behind you to be able to even lean on like, hey, I have this situation that I'm not necessarily all the way familiar. Like, do you have any insight relating to this? And so I do feel just industry-wise, there is a shift, especially just with all of the technology that's around in terms of like the technology that helps you file taxes. Like that's going to take out the whole industry of people who are just focused on just filing taxes. Soon, I would say like in the next probably like 3 to 5 years, if that long, people are going to be able to just, upload their W-2s or whatever to a system and have their tax returns filed. And so the shift that I'm seeing is that people are starting to realize like the real value is in being able to provide advice, being able to strategize with clients. Like that's where the industry is going. And so the people who are in the know that, okay, I need to strengthen that part of my business, or I need to strengthen that part of my skill set to be able to survive in that landscape. Because again, it's not just going to be about just filing taxes. You're going to have AI to be able to do that for you sooner or later. But AI is not going to be able to give you advice and actually be able to like sit down and strategize with you on that. So
for your situation, everyone's is different. It's everyone, like you said, it's a case-by-case scenario. It's a puzzle, so it's not like, even if you wanted to use AI doesn't know what your real life is going on. So.
AI can just take what's in box 1 and put it on the line on the 1040. That's what AI is going to do. But AI is not going to talk to you and say, okay, well, what is it are you trying to do, and what can we do to better help you get there? And so that's the shift that I'm seeing.
Okay, that's interesting, because I always wonder with people coming up in the industry, especially with real estate, you have people that are just into like, oh, I want to learn, I want to do this, and we're always giving advice about how to kind of get into it, how to get into this new world. And now seeing like this new world is like tax preparation is going to be technology in the future. So like I said, learning how to strategize and give advice based off your scenario seems way more valuable.
That's really where the shift's going to be. So we gotta get your advisor. No more just I do taxes. Like, okay, well, what do you do with taxes? Exactly.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, with the knowing about the future and everything like that, is there any like new tax regulations or anything like new that's changing at least the real estate industry?
I don't think we have that much time, Christine. No, just kidding. No, there's always going to be something, not necessarily that's like groundbreaking changing, but as we have a new administration coming in, we don't necessarily know all of the changes that are going to come into effect. I mean, there are a couple of things that are being thrown against the wall in terms of increasing the capital gains tax rates. There are going to be certain things about, like, even related to probably the 1031 exchange in terms of how that, and I'm getting a little bit more advanced in some strategies, but there are a couple of things that are coming down the pike. There's even being some talk about, and again, not to be too technical, but like as it relates to itemized deductions, for an example, like there are certain things for homeowners or people who write off real estate taxes on their tax return. There are talks of even reducing that or potentially even eliminating that. So from a real estate standpoint, that can be really impactful, especially for agents, where that's one of the selling points, right? Of like when you have buyers coming out, is that now you can better leverage what you're paying for a mortgage as opposed to rent, right? And so if some of these proposed changes go into effect, and again, I have no insight, like I don't know exactly what's gonna happen, but if some of these things do go into play, it can affect real estate just overall in terms of, okay, well, will people want to buy property? So if you're a fix and flipper, part of your bread and butter is being able to have buyers on the back end to be able to buy that flip so that you can then turn that into another investment. If some of that market, and I'm not going to say it's going to dry up because people are always going to be buying houses, but just these are some of the things that we want to pay attention to in terms of real estate, because that affects the end part of the transaction, or maybe even sometimes the beginning part of it in terms of interest rates, like how much are you paying to be able to purchase these things. So just stuff like that.
That's a good point. And it's like everything is changing, and I think a lot of people are like, oh well, what's gonna happen in 2025? What new regulations are gonna come out, or new things that we have to try to pivot? But I guess, that's just life in general. Everything comes up and goes, and you just adjust.
We will not get political in this conversation, but I will say one of the things that people should pay attention to, especially with this new administration coming in, is that they always had a heavy focus on business and real estate. And real estate is one of the primary benefits as it relates to taxes. Like when you think about the different credits and deductions that are available, especially for businesses or investors, it's generally centered around real estate. So one thing that I would say, even if there are changes that are going to go into effect, or that happen to go into effect, there's still going to be a real estate component involved. Like that's not going to go away completely, because a lot of the tax code is designed around that and for businesses. So so rest assured, like you still want to stay in real estate, just you want to make sure that you have someone that's keeping an eye on what's happening within the real estate space, and taxes as they both combine. Right.
Right, because I think with everything, right, things will happen, things will change, right? But if we just stay on top of things, what's going on, talk with people like you, so that way we know how to change our personal finances and adjust it from there.
And which is why you have a strategist, right? Because if you have a strategist or an advisor on your team, you're not just meeting once a year, right? Like you're either, depending on your situation, quarterly or maybe even sometimes monthly, to be able to say, okay, this is what I have going on. What do we need to shift? What do we need to put in place, right? So you don't necessarily have to, please, read the Wall Street Journal and all the things that help you stay involved, but you don't necessarily need to know all of the ins and outs of what's happening. That's why you have your strategist there to help guide you on what you should be doing next.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. And I just really want to reiterate, hire a professional.
We're not DIYing this.
We are not DIY, and
I love it.
It's really important, because I think even my first 5 years on real estate, it's really been like, all right, here, Dad, here's my stuff. Do my taxes. My dad's the tax man, right? He's the jack of all trades, right? But that's really not the way to go, especially if you really want to. If you're in the real estate industry, business, whatever it is, I think it's really important to have a plan, have a strategy. And I know it's hard for all individuals to do their business. So if you prepare and be proactive,
Yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to reactive,
Yes, yes.
there's going to be a big shift in just that alone.
And it's so funny because my dad was actually the one who started doing our taxes too. Like that's when he was doing it like pen and paper. I guess because it's just like, okay, but then now I'm taking over and I'm going to do the taxes now. But yeah, it's just interesting. But
that is wow. So I do have some questions around being an enrolled agent.
Okay.
So what are like some of your like key responsibilities for your clients?
Yeah, so I take it a little step further. I mean, because like I mentioned, like you have people that do taxes, and then you can kind of you can enhance it a little bit more and actually provide advice. So one of the things that I do is, as we mentioned, like I stay up on current events, if you will, but I stay up on the tax laws, and that most of that is doing my continuing education hours, right? Like even as a CPA has to do their continuing education hours, as an enrolled agent, you have to do a certain amount of hours per year to make sure that you're staying in compliance, staying ethical, you know, all of those things. So that's, I guess, one of the primary things that I'm doing as an enrolled agent is I'm making sure that I'm staying educated and I'm staying in the know based on what's happening. Like we're not using 10-year-old strategies, if you will. Like we have to evolve and keep up with the time. So I'd say that's one of the things. But in addition to that, like I'm very much in favor of, or one of the things that I've always done with my clients is giving them an explanation of what's happening. Like I can't say how many times like a client has come to me and said like, I'm just always so confused about what's happening with the taxes. Like you know, give them the information, like they do whatever, but I don't know why I owe, or I don't know all of these things. And so it's always been important to me to like, at a high level, if you will, right? Like go through what's happening, like give a more digestible explanation of what's happening. Like I'm not gonna necessarily, like sometimes can get technical, but I'm not gonna throw like all of this information at you. It's really gonna be from a point of like, okay, well, this is what happened, this is why it happened, and this is what we can potentially do next time to kind of reduce or improve that, right? And I think people really appreciate having, for lack of better words, like not a dumbed down explanation, but just more of like
simplified.
Right, that's a perfect word to say. Like a more simplified explanation of okay, what's happening. So like, okay, now I understand. Why didn't they just say that before, right?
Why didn't you just
say that? Like why you gotta go through all the hoops? So that's one thing that I'm really key and important about when I'm working with clients is like having them have an understanding. And I think sometimes a lot of professionals don't want to necessarily give that level of understanding because now they think, oh well, this person's just going to go out and do it themselves. I promise you, they won't. Like they don't want to. They're not going to. They just want to have better understanding of what's happening. And so that's one of the main things.
That's good. That's really good, especially like right now. It's January.
Yeah.
So this is a really good time.
Oh my gosh.
Get going right for this year. Not only this year's, but now start planning for last year and this year's. Right. So start now. And I do have a question. You are based in New York City, but do you serve clients like nationwide? Or
thank you. So I am based in New York City, but I literally have clients all over the country. I have clients in Wisconsin and Texas and Minnesota, like Atlanta, Georgia, all over the country. So, and that's again, one of the benefits of being an enrolled agent is that I don't necessarily have to be licensed in all of these different states. Not to say that I'm not educating myself on the specific state laws and credits and whatnot that's available. But I can serve clients all over the country. So
that's really good to know, especially like us in New York City. We know a lot of people who are investing in Georgia, Texas,
Florida, all the things.
Doing business in other states. So it's good to know that you can have one tax professional, handle that instead of saying, okay, I'm going to get a tax professional.
I need to get someone down the block or whatever. And it's just like, no, that's really the power of being virtual, right? Like I service a lot of clients virtually. We get on Zoom calls, like we do the screen shares. I have a secure portal to be able to share documents. So a lot of this can be done where you don't necessarily have to feel like I need to get someone in my backyard to be able to do this for them to have an understanding of what's going on. So,